Talk and Rock Radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. Today, my guest, I'm really glad to have here because he is one of my absolute favorites. This guy was born in New York City, came to El Paso in 1971. His dad was transferred here to Fort Bliss. And so the whole family packed up, came to El Paso, and he has stayed here ever since. I tell you what, he's produced over 16 albums that I know of, has written and directed 3+ movies that I know of, and is a college professor to boot. And I don't know what he does in his part-time, but anyway, I have today the inimitable Billy Towns. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me here, Rick. And in my part-time, I'll let you know, I'm an avid poker player. I'll just say that right now. I love playing poker.
I was going to bring that up, so yeah, you already touched on it. Yeah. You and Ruben, I guess, play a little bit now and then.
We have tournaments, and then of course I like playing the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. So yeah, that's for another. We can talk about that later.
Well, I want you to talk a little bit about how you first got into music. Did I read somewhere where your mom was one of your teachers at one time?
Yeah, very, 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 very briefly. My mother was a piano teacher practically all her adult life. And yes, when we were born, I would say she told me like around 1.5, 2 years old, she started teaching us piano. But as many children of piano teachers, we just, we started messing around, and really stopped practicing and all that. So she pawned us off on an external piano teacher, which seemed to work very well because, she was paying for it. We had to get serious and everything. But yeah, she was officially my first piano teacher, and she was a wonderful piano player. She loved playing classical music, and she dabbled in show tunes and everything, which some of them had some jazz elements, which I listened to, and which I kind of grew towards. So that got me into my ear for listening into jazz elements.
Well, I know right when you got to El Paso, you were a high school student. I know you went to Irvin High School.
Mm-hmm.
And were you at that time really impressed with jazz? Was that where your main playing style was jazz, or were you really getting into the funk kind of playing that you also do at that time? Or talk a little bit about that.
A little bit of both, actually. I really got into jazz when I was in middle school. Because that's when I joined what they called the stage band back in those days. And I went to Canyon Hills Middle School. And I saw my sister. She was the piano player when we were at Bassett Middle School. She was the piano player for the stage band at Bassett. And I looked at it and I loved it. I liked what she did. And I said, I want to do that when I get older or when I'm available to play in that band. And so when I went to Canyon, I was the piano player in the jazz band, which carried over to when I went to Irvin High School. But I will say it was at Irvin High School when my former band director, who I still play with today, Mr. Jimmy Olivas, he got us listening to jazz groups. He at the time, back at the time, it was Chuck Mangione, Maynard Ferguson, Spyro Gyra, Chick Corea, Oscar Peterson, Miles Davis, etc., 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 etc. He kind of forced, but I'm glad he did. He would play it during our lunches. He would bring us in his office and listen to it. And he said, Billy, listen to this. This is how they're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? It eventually stuck. And we carried it over to when we played in our jazz band at high school. And we really got into it so much that we were writing our own tunes. We were practicing at our lunches. We were trying to go out and play. And that's when the hunger of jazz, of playing jazz in me, really started to flourish in high school, all 4 years. And we did very well all 4 of the years in high school.
Well, you mentioned Jimmy Olivas, and Jimmy and I of course, I'm going to be dating myself now. I'm a little bit older than you are, but Jimmy and I played numerous times with Jim back in, so it'd be around 68, 69, my freshman year at UTEP. Mm-hmm. And is when I first met Jimmy, and I know we did a few pickup gigs together and stuff, and he's always been one of my local favorites, and Marty as well. Mm-hmm. They're both great musicians. And,
the Olivas family, Marty and Jimmy, and Jimmy's late son, and even his dad, and now Jimmy's daughter and his son-in-law, and now his grandchildren. They all have that lineage of playing music, whether it's classical or jazz or what have you. It's a very good musical family.
You know, you mentioned your sister a little while ago. Was that the same sister that I saw on video when you were playing
Yes.
in New York City?
And my only sister, yes, that was she's the one that I met in New York when we played in New York City a couple weeks ago. And yeah, it was a pleasure to play because she hasn't seen me play in years. I haven't been to New York in years.
Wow.
So it was a pleasure for her, pleasure for me to finally get to see me play and to finally to see her in the audience and see one of my shows, and that felt very, very good.
Is she still living in New York?
Oh yeah, she's been in New York since the mid '90s. Definitely, she has her business in New York, actually in on Long Island in the Hamptons, in Sag Harbor. But yeah, she's been there. She's a New Yorker. She was here. She went to high school here, but she graduated from college back east, so she's an East Coaster.
Is she performing also, Billy?
No, she doesn't perform. Well, I take it back. She said that she's getting back into performing. She told me she just bought a bass guitar. I don't even know what that's about. She bought a bass. She wants to learn how to play bass guitar. I don't know, but she does play piano and she plays flute. She was in flute in the band at Bassett when we were there. But she's slowly but surely getting back into that, and she sings very well too. You know, she gets that from my mom and everything. But yeah, she doesn't perform like I do, but she performs every now and then for friends and family, so something like that.
I saw a day or two after your performance there, your last gig in New York. It was it really warmed my heart to see what you did with Julie Andrews and what you did for Diana. You know, that was such a sweet thing that you did, man.
Oh, that was so beautiful. And even I tell people when they see the picture, Rick, I tell people the picture does not even come close to saying how warm or how very kind, very hospitable, very knowledgeable that Julie Andrews was. She's just a pure classic. We talked for about an hour. We played about, I don't know, 7 or 8 tunes, and intermittently we would talk, and she'd talk about and she'd openly talk about her time when she filmed The Sound of Music. She told me that I remind her of her music director for the film, Bob Florence. And the way, because he was a jazz player and the way he played and everything. So and she just loved the music. Myself and Neff Millian, the sax player that plays with me, she loved the sax. I mean, she was like this every time that Neff would play. She'd be like this, just soaking it all in and everything. And she just really liked our duo performance that she did. We played basically for her family and my sister, and we had so much fun in the Hamptons playing for her. And she would always, well, not always, but every now and then, for Sun City at Night, one of my songs, after we played it, she asked me, does that song have the lyrics? I go, no, it doesn't have it. She goes, oh, it screams of lyrics. I think you should put lyrics to that song, because she heard lyrics in my music that I played for her. So her ears, were so open. I mean, she's 85 years old and sharp as a tack, Rick. Sharp as a tack. It was so wonderful to play for her.
This next song, I used to dedicate it to my mother. I wrote it back in 1988, and I dedicated my mother. This one goes out to everybody out there in El Paso, Texas, listening, dedicated everybody, but I'm gonna do a special dedication since I haven't seen her in years, dedicate to Mom, and the derivative of my mom is sitting right here. It's a pleasure to see her. My sister Deborah Ann Towns right here. This one's called Sun City at Night.
I think what you need to do, Billy, is bring her to El Paso to your studio, and let's put some words to that song, man, and let her sing it. Whoa.
Yeah, I told her she should visit El Paso. She would love to, if the scheduling. I mean, she's still busy, even at 85. Dame Julie Andrews, she's still busy. She's doing voiceover for films. I think she was in Despicable Me or something like that, and still active and everything. But she said she would love to visit El Paso. The only Texas city she's been to was San Antonio. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Other than that, she has, and incidentally, the Plaza Classic Film Festival is showing The Sound of Music this year. And,
good.
Yeah. I've already been asked, hey, no, I have no control over that, but I am going to go to the film for Sound of Music this year. So,
and I know something else that they're playing this year also.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Border Lord. Yeah.
Yes. My film, Border Lords 2, that we did back in 2006, 2007. So I am so excited for that, Rick. I'm so excited for that. Finally, they're playing it. They were supposed to play it about 10, 11 years ago, but they had a water main break in the museum. It was going to be played in the museum's theater, but the water main broke and they had to clear out everybody. So we lost the opportunity to screen our film. So finally, after about 10 or 11 years, we're getting the opportunity to screen Border Lords 2, Dark Secrets at the Plaza Classic Film Festival.
Sweet, man. I'm so proud of you, Billy. That is such a cool thing, man. It's going to finally happen. Let's talk a little bit about Embry-Riddle. I'm just very curious about that. When you left El Paso to go to college, I know you went to Embry-Riddle. Did you go to the Prescott, Arizona campus?
Yes, we went to Prescott. My sister was going to go to Embry-Riddle, but she declined and went to. At the time, she went to. She went to NMSU and then she transferred to Boston University. But what I tagged along when I was, junior or sophomore, junior. I liked it. I liked Embry-Riddle and I liked what it had to offer aviation. I've always been infatuated with aviation. So yes, I went there as soon as I graduated. I got accepted, everything, and went to Embry-Riddle. Loved it, Rick. I'm so honored to have gone to a very top school. They call it the Harvard of Aviation School, and I learned so much. Gained the skill. I got my pilot's license, of course, and my bass player, Jim Foster, not only did he go with me, we both got the same identical technical and business degrees. Jim is now a professional pilot. He flies here locally in El Paso.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you fly yourself and Ruben to Las Vegas when you go play the tournaments?
I wish. I could, but you know what? It's just a lot cheaper taking the Southwest Airlines. It's not efficient on doing that. But every now and then, for our upcoming film Border Lords 3, I did fly the plane for our aerial sequences, and then I had our cinematographer Victor. He's there. He with the nice 4K camera. We used GoPros. It was very cool. But yeah, we got some really nice aerial scenes of daytime and nighttime El Paso, along with Jim Foster, who also flew. But yeah, I still fly for leisure. Definitely not professionally, for leisure, and I still enjoy it very much. So I have almost 1,000 hours of flight.
Wow, that's great. Well, for the plane sequences in your third film, did you fly primarily over El Paso, or did you go some other airspace?
Primarily over El Paso. We pretty much coated El Paso, downtown, especially UTEP, West Side. We got the desert out there on the east side, Fort Bliss, Northeast, Juarez, et cetera. We coated. I'm not going to use everything because I still haven't finished editing the film, but a lot of those aerial sequences will be used. So yeah, we got, I'm very fortunate to know a lot of pilots at Santa Teresa Airport, and of course Jim and everything. So they were happy to do it, and we had a lot of fun too. And not only we attached the GoPro to the outer skin of the aircraft. We did that. We also had what they call a Robinson helicopter, and we attached it to the bottom of the Robinson, and we went around Mount Cristo Rey and got some really nice footage.
Oh, nice.
So, and with the GoPro, and the GoPro is, famous for having that steady type of look and 4K. Oh yeah, had a lot of fun.
Is Robert Bettis in this third film?
Robert Bettis is definitely in the third film, and I will. The most I'll say right now is he's a very key character.
All right.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job. He's an incredible actor, did a wonderful job, had a lot of fun. I mean, I just thank him so much. It was so much fun shooting with Robert, and came up with some great ideas too. Came up with some really good ideas.
I bet he would be quite a personality to work with, even when off camera. I think he would probably keep you in
He's such a
stitches
nice
half the
guy.
time.
Such a nice guy, professional, everything great. It's always a pleasure to work with Robert Bettis. Always.
Yeah. Well, he's a cool guy. I like him. He's one of my Facebook friends, and I think we've met several times. But he's he'll be fun to be seeing on the screen again.
Oh yeah, and he does well. You'll like him. He does well.
Yeah. The when you first started out at Embry-Riddle, was that the main goal, was to get a degree in business in aeronautics, and getting your pilot's license, or?
Mostly aeronautics. I wanted to fly, and my goal was to get my pilot's license, go fly for the airlines, et cetera, and almost got there. It's just that I decided to be a little bit more diverse, and I had a really good advisor to where they advised me to get not only my aeronautics degree, aeronautics and engineering, but we got Jim and I, we got in identical degrees. We have aeronautical studies with the concentrating in business. And so I have, I learned a great deal from my professors at Embry-Riddle from my business background, and of course with my learned skills and teaching from the science of aviation and aeronautics and everything. And what's over 5.5 years, learned a lot. It's a great school. It's even better now. The things they teach now, aerospace, they teach cybersecurity, all kinds of things are going on at Embry-Riddle. It's a wonderful school. So I was very honored to have gone there and graduated from there.
How's Demetrius doing these days? Your drummer,
Demetrius is great. Demetrius is great. Raising his family, his 2 girls are graduated, and he has his young son that he's raising. So Dee's great, sounding good. Demetrius is still one of the best drummers in this Southwest, and of course we always had a lot of fun. And he's recorded from all my 16 albums that are out. He's recorded on all but 2. So he's recorded on 14 of my albums.
Well, every time, I know I've booked you guys numerous times for different gigs, Alfresco Fridays, and I know this Clint Independent School District.
Right.
Demetrius always amazed me. Every time I watched him play, I'm going, man, I can't even consider myself a drummer when I see somebody like that monster play.
He's great. He has that learned skill. He just knows percussion. He knows music. He knows rhythms. And anytime he's and you know what, Rick? He's incredible. Probably one of the most incredible drummers I've seen in the studio. He's so meticulous on every single. He finds out what's going on with every single song. Oh. He surgically breaks down the rhythms, and he'll write charts.
His timing is phenomenal. He's in the pocket like nobody I know. I do know somebody else, Louis Belson, but we don't have Louis anymore.
Yeah. Well, Demetrius, he's incredible. That's why he's prime with me in the studio. And he's, I call him world class because I use Demetrius. But what I've done lately with my recordings is I like to expand. I'll use Demetrius for about 2 or 3 songs, and then I'll get some other special guest drummers. And I've used some really top drummers from Los Angeles, Rayford Griffin, and D is on par with these guys. World class, on par with these guys for his performance, for his skill, and everything. So yeah, man, it's always a joy to play with my full group. Demetrius, Jim, Neff, all those guys, incredible players.
I was going to ask you, Billy, is that how you challenge yourself, to get inspired and continue to grow the way you have, by keeping the likes of the musicians that you do, Neff, and everybody around you? Is that what keeps you sparked to be on your A game all the time?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, Rick. By playing with these players that, in their own right, they keep up. Demetrius, he keeps with the times. Jim, yes, we might be older, and everything, but you know what? You don't get to be our age without being a fool. You learn a few things along the way, and they are at the top of their playing. Demetrius, Jim, and Neff, and by playing with them, I call myself a facilitator, and I'm challenged, and I challenge myself to make sure and keep up with them. However, we try to keep the music fresh. We try to keep it, up to date, moving as much as we can, because as time goes by, we don't put out as many albums or recordings we used to, because everybody's busy either with family. I'm working on my film. I'm teaching everything, things like that. However, we do have our projects. And when we do our projects, I try to make it the best possible. And on top of that, by keeping fresh, I try to have the production with the most high-tech resources possible, meaning I use the best software out there. That's what I teach at EPCC and at UTEP. You use the best software out there that's available, and we're lucky. My producer, another guy that produced with me, Mr. George Ware, he's given the top software in the world because he's a beta tester, been a beta tester for years. So he has all the top latest software that does the most incredible things, even some experimental software that's not even out there, and I get to use it for my recordings or for the film I'm doing and everything. So we try to keep fresh in the technology, and we try to keep fresh in our writing of the music, and we try to keep fresh in our approach to playing, performing, etc., as best as we can. And yes, that challenges me, that keeps me going instead of being stale, playing the same thing over and over. I like going, and I try to play with various players here in El Paso and abroad to keep fresh with the different sounds that I hear around me, different type of playing and everything. And we just did that in New York City. When Neff and I went to New York City, we used an incredible young drummer and bass player from that area, and they were great. And they loved the music. We loved playing off of them. We loved playing with them. And that's another networking of musicians, a pool of musicians I have. So it's always fun to play with new people, new really good musicians, and it helps you grow and it keeps you fresh and everything. So yes, I do that very much. I try to rely on other people on their playing to keep my playing and my technical abilities and my creativeness as fresh as possible.
I was watching you carefully during that show when you were doing some IQs and stuff with the drummer. Mm-hmm. I know, and he wasn't looking at any charts or anything. I mean, this guy, it was like, how much practice time did you have? I know you didn't need it with Neff, obviously, but with the bass player and the drummer that you used that day, mm-hmm. How much, did you send them a lot of the music in advance for them to get real familiarized with it, or were they just?
I did, and I do this. It's pretty much standard practice with me. If you're a new musician, well, the way it went is first of all, the gig got put together a little over a week before we did it. So we did it on Saturday, and Abel, with his Yardbird Entertainment Group, they decided on Friday, the week before, to go ahead and do it, because we only had a week. We said, you know what, let's do it. You're coming to town. We think we can do something, and I'm so glad they did. So once that got going, and he secured me those two great players, Tom DiCarlo on bass and Andrew Swift on drums. I called them, talked to them, we discussed the music, and I sent them a link to my Dropbox that has all my charts. And they're professionals. They downloaded everything they needed to do to learn the tunes, and they did very well. And yes, when we got to New York, we had about an hour and a half to our rehearsal with them. And they already had it, by them listening to it, looking at the music and everything, they had it more or less. And we just worked on maps and cues and everything. But it was pretty much very organic, the music we played. And if you're paying attention, it becomes fun. It's not that hard. So as you heard, they did a very nice job. They did a very, very nice job. And yeah, I gave the drummer cues. He's just not used, but he caught every single one of them, and it was very good. Andrew Swift, he was from Australia.
Yeah.
And Canberra. He said, I don't say Canberra, say Canberra. So, he was Australian.
You'll need to look at my, well, you can hear it right now. I just did an interview with Sonny Melendres, Pete Heinlein, and Johnny Thompson, three of El Paso's legendary DJs. And that's where Pete is living now, in Canberra, Australia.
Okay. Yeah, it's a wonderful place for music, he told me, and yeah, Australia has wonderful musicians out there. But yeah, these guys sent them the music, they learned it. If they had any questions, they emailed me, etc., and they pretty much hit it right on the head. It wasn't perfect, but what's to be expected the very first time playing? But they did a pretty good job for the first time. for the first outing of performing this music. They did a very nice job.
Tell me about your love for drumming. You know, I never knew that until I read that somewhere recently, that you also like to play drums, but I've never seen you behind a kit before.
I was since elementary school, Rick. I was a drummer. I played snare drum.
Wow.
I wanted to play trumpet, but all the trumpets were checked out. And so in the corner, what was left was a snare drum and some sticks in the corner. And the band director, Mr. Weaver, I remember, said, "Billy, that's what's left." Okay. So I got it and everything. And then the rest was history. I started practicing a snare. I got the books and all that stuff. And then I still played percussion when I was in middle school at Canyon Hills. Played timpani, played snare, a little bit of everything. And that's started learning, you know, and I really got into it. In addition, of course, for the jazz band, I played piano. And then when I got to Irvin, Jimmy Olivas, and he still kids me about this to this day, he put me on cymbals because I wanted to play in the snare for marching, but he put me on cymbals, and I'm going, darn, okay. But you know what? I became the best damn cymbal player he's ever had. Ask him. The best damn cymbal player he's ever had for marching. But I eventually ended up playing tri-toms in the marching band, and for concert, I was the timpani player. I was the designated timpani player for at least 3 years of my high school, all the way till I graduated, playing timpani and everything. But I love percussion. Oh, I played some mallets too, because of my knowledge for keyboards. I played some mallets. But I played all the way, and how I played drum set. I played drum set when I was in college, Rick. I played drum set when I was in college. And another newsflash. Oh, after I graduated from Embry-Riddle, I happened to go to UTEP, and Ruben Gutierrez invited me down to go check out the UTEP lab band. And I did during that summer of 89 or 88, 89. And the drummer quit. The drummer they had quit, or he didn't show up. And so Sam Schimble says, "Well, you know, and anybody know anybody that can play some drums for right now?" And then Ruben looked at me, he says, "You know, play, just give us a groove." And I went, and back in those days, I was playing more drums and, you know, more set drumming from college. So my chops were a little bit up. I went, and Sam Schimble says, "Stay right there." And then I ended up staying 6 months playing with the UTEP lab band, Rick.
Oh, wow.
My last gig is when we opened up for the Temptations at the downtown El Paso Festival back in like 89, 90. That was my last gig of playing UTEP. Well, I played for them throughout, I would say, the whole fall semester. Or was it spring? I think it was the fall. It's the spring semester. And then, yeah, because the fall festival is in the summer. And I played for one semester. I played drums, and Ruben Gutierrez and Sam Trimble and Jim Foster will definitely confirm this. I played drums with the University of Texas lab band, jazz band. I played drums, not piano, because Ruben was on piano. But I had a lot of fun. We had so much fun. But that's really the last time after that, you know, I got more into playing. That's when I started recording my first album. It all went to piano and keyboards after that. And, you know, I got a real drummer to play. Back in those days, we had Rob Hyman. He was a very good drummer. So.
Back to New York City, since it had been a while since you had been there, Billy, what have you seen that's changed so much? Obviously, COVID has changed the complexion of a lot of things worldwide, but what did you see different that surprised you the most going back home?
The biggest thing, honestly, COVID changed it. You know, half the people were wearing masks, half were not. So things were open, as we more or less, you know, explained. And, you know, we went jazz club hopping, if you can imagine that. We went, because, you know, New York and the Soho area and then the Village, they have so many jazz clubs. You can literally walk from jazz club to jazz club. So we did a lot of that. That's so much fun. And it was crowded, so, you know, things were coming back. But what really impressed me is the big thing is not seeing two Twin Towers there. Last time I was there in the city, I saw two Twin Towers downtown, and they weren't there, but they were replaced, of course, with the beautiful Freedom Tower, which we saw. And then they have the pools where the Twin Tower was. So that was different. That was kind of weird. And the other thing that impressed me is New York has a lot more buildings. You know, New York has a lot more condos, high-rise condo buildings, and in Queens. Queens grew up a lot too. So there's a lot more high-rise skyscraper buildings that look really cool. And so the skyline changed. The skyline changed dramatically for the obvious reason, but that was cool. And other than that, it was just fun to be back. Just fun to be back. The food, just the culture, the vibe of the city, everything. The airports are a lot updated because LaGuardia, last time I was there, it was a crap airport. Now it's a beautiful state-of-the-art airport. So yeah, it's just the skyline, the look of it, New York and everything, the feel. It was good to be back. It was good to be back.
Your love for film, how did all that come about? I mean, you studied drums, you you were in the band, marching band, you played jazz, you've got your pilot's license, you're a college professor. I mean, okay, film, all right. Tell me how that all came about. What?
Well, even before it all, if you can believe that, when I was in elementary school, my dad had a movie camera, a film camera. So I got into taking films when we were kids. We were in elementary school running around, and I was just looking at some of that footage earlier. I got into that, and it, I just liked using the camera. I liked using the film camera that he had, and I was always borrowing it. Finally, Dad got my own camera. You got to use camera, but the thing about the camera, it had a 1-frame shutter where you can take 1 frame at a time. And with that, I started doing animations. So I started drawing cartoons, the cell approach. I did that. And then I did the motion, I'd have the camera vertical, face at bird's eye view facing down. I'd have my board there. And I saw this on some kind of kid show. And then I'd move the one frame, and I'd move, the kind of like the claymation thing, but I did it with paper and everything. And I created, and the bad thing is I can't find that film. We did a cartoon called it was kind of a Star Wars space fighting-ish type of cartoon, and I can't find it for the life of me. I want to find it, but I did that and created animations, and I really got into film, and then back in those days, we went down to Woolco, and then turned it in, and about 2 weeks later, we'd get the film developed and come back. That was the longest 2 weeks, let me tell you, man. That's one thing I don't miss about those back days, that when the developing of film, I'm glad it's instantaneous now, so, but yeah, I got it. And then I used to watch, my dad was into film, and he liked, his stars, he liked Clint Eastwood, Steve McQueen, et cetera, he looked at a lot of Richard Pryor, Richard Roundtree and all that. And I watched those films along with them. Charles Bronson, I remember watching a lot of Charles Bronson films. And I just got into the film, the stories, how they're made. It just wowed me, all that. And I just wanted to know, how Hollywood is made. And then we went out to my parents took us on a trip to Universal Studios back in those days. And enough said, the filmmaking just got me, and I got more into, shooting with my camera and started getting a little bit more technical about it. And that's how I got my love for film on doing that. And I didn't really do anything in high school or college, not really. But when software came out, and you can now edit on software back in what we did in the mid 90s, that's when I started to say, okay, messing around with doing videos, that we did my music video, etc. And then like I was saying earlier, George Ware, he was a beta tester for Sony Music, and back in those days, back in the late 90s, they had video editing software, and we were chosen to beta test the video editing software. So with that, we said, okay, well, what can we do? Well, my cousin had a script that was Borderlords, the infancy of Borderlords. Said, let's just shoot some scenes of this. So that's how we learned. We learned how to prepare a scene, learned how to, treat some of the dialogue, even though it was very primitive back then. But we just learned. I've learned for the past 20 years. I've read some books on it, watched a lot of video, I spent a good 3 years watching all the extra content for films that you'd get on either VHS or DVD. And I still do to this time. I watched a good 3 years, all the director's content, director's commentary and everything. You can learn so much by watching those things. did that. Went to some seminars when I was in LA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and just did my own thing. Just kind of tailored it to how I'd like to do things, and I just love getting into film. I love watching the big epics, and I like independent film. I used to like independent film, but I like practically independent film almost even more than the epics, because you see all the grit and grind and the heart that the filmmaker puts into the film, and you kind of absorb that. And I like going to film festivals and everything, and just started absorbing on me. And yeah, I'm an avid film lover still. And during the pandemic, Netflix, Hulu, all the films. I watched so many films during the pandemic just to catch up. And a lot of the old stuff that I used to watch back in the 70s, just got into it, and I love it. Got some great ideas too.
We've been watching. I mean, the Kern family loves film too. I mean, we've got a cousin. My wife's got a cousin by marriage. I think you've heard of him before, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we were in his Blue Sky movie. My wife and I were. And
wow.
but the thing about film, I think the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I was in photography all my life, and I think we kind of passed that on to our kids. Now my son's a photographer for Getty Images.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And he's been one of theirs for, I think, about 8 or 9 years now. And then our daughter, she minored in film. They both went to UT Austin, but my son has been director in charge of film, and independent film in Austin. And he loves it as well. He loves doing it. If you ever need somebody to pull in, last minute or whatever, he could definitely do it.
Right.
He was doing one show, I remember, in Austin, and this guy that was directing it and produced it, he had brought in some guy from New York, and he knew what Ricky could already do, our son, but he brought in this other guy, and he started working in conjunction with our son, and he ended up sending the guy back to New York. He said, no, there's no way this guy can even measure up to what you're doing talent wise. And they were not complimenting each other. So my son he ended up being the only one that they used for all the.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I'm sure he's very, very talented.
Yeah, he's doing really well. And although the COVID thing has really brought, South by Southwest and all the things that he's done in the past. I mean, he's traveled quite a bit. I mean, he's the main go-to for, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, all of that area, but and all the red carpets and everything. But it's been a kind of a tough go with COVID, but hopefully things are going to get back on track again. We hope.
Yeah, I'm hoping to. We need South by Southwest back.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
Well, in your playing time and your video production time, you've certainly seen a lot of transition between analog to digital. And I know you touched on that a little bit. You don't have to wait around for stuff to be developed. Now it's instantaneous, being in the digital. How has that changed your love for what you do in record production? I'm sure there's a lot of difference between, acetate in the studio and working with all the latest softwares and everything. It's crazy difference. How do you like that? How did you make the transition? Are you still a traditionalist when it comes to tape? Are you happy with the software? I know you've seen a lot of stuff with the softwares, you've already said that, but how are you liking it?
You know what, I would say it's not that I've abandoned tape, because tape, that's what we grew up on, that's what we learned, that's what we cut our teeth on and everything. And they still have some really good, the Studer 2-inch deck. It's still great if you're looking for that type of sound. But I am loving, because obviously of the flexibility, the speed, and so many faceted things that you can put in front of you with digital, with software and all that. That's where I'm going. And not only that, we have plugins, and these are external programs that can work within your core program, software. We can have external, plugins that more or less sound like it's been recorded on tape, kind of get it that warm kind of feel and everything. So it's all good. Even though there's, I've seen some producers, especially out in Tornillo, because they have the Studer, the 2-incher. They record, they do the organic recording on tape, and then they transfer it to digital just to get it that feel. And that's a way of doing it. But that's money, and everything like that. But the short point is to just record it well. You can record it well digitally, and then if you're very keen on using plugins, you can make things sound very well. And obviously, for probably 90% of the industry, that's how it's done. But yeah, I'm very comfortable using software. That's what I teach and everything. You can get a lot out of it. It just streamlines your production. Now, what way I'm teaching these students is streamlining and managing the production. You have everything in front of you as far as the software and everything. Okay, this is how you manage it. Make sure you record it well. There's no excuse for not recording it. Or record it well, whatever you're recording, instruments, vocal, guitar, what happened. Record it well, process it well, and of course, listen back to it. And the good thing is now you can listen back to it umpteen times because we got software, and it's immediate. You can go to wherever you want. It's not linear. It's non-linear. You can jump around wherever you want. And by doing that, you can really streamline your editing process and getting everything sounding the way you want to and better. And that's how I approach all my albums, and of course how I'm approaching my film. And I do the video the same way too. Just video, I gotta watch it, whereas an audio you gotta listen and everything. But yeah, it's great. It's great. I like it. I like the surgical aspect that you can be with both audio and video. It is good, and that's why we have the films of today that are in 4K, 8K, and everything and the movie magic that is out there. All the digital effects and everything, because everybody can surgically insert things or do whatever. Now, is it cheating? Well, it depends. There's an art of doing it, but for the most part, they're good directors, the good filmmakers. They try to get the good organic sight, sound, and all that, and then they enhance all the things digitally and everything. But it just depends on how you approach it, and it doesn't matter. Whatever's the final product, what people see in here, that's what matters right there. That's what matters.
I probably need to talk to you sometime about some of the issues that I'm having going from when I'm rendering my final edits and everything. A lot of the times I'm getting syncing issues going between the video and the actual audio. And I have tried a software that's a non-proprietary, but it's got a lot of good reviews on it and everything. I've used it. I've put it on my machine, and I've tried to get everything back in sync again, and it doesn't work. I don't know. And the issues are primarily with Zoom, and I could be, I don't know. It could be a data packet problem.
Yeah, it is. It's simply put, it's a frame rate problem, because you have audio that could be, I'm not sure, I'd have to really look at all all the data and metadata, but your audio is being recorded at a certain frame rate or a certain sample rate versus what your video is being recorded at. And one might be staggering the other on doing that. And it's just syncing them up and making sure they're exactly the same type of frame rate, syncing, sample rate, all that, because if it's just a sliver off, then down the road, it's going to eventually get too much off, and that's where you're getting your syncing problems and everything. And I've noticed that because I work so much with video. 9 times out of 10, or I should say 9.9 times out of 10, when I record with the camera and then when I import it into my computer, it syncs up like a glove. However, when I start editing it, or if I start to colorize it, or I start to re-render it down to where it has the different sample rates, everything, then you can see a slide of, it's kind of drifts a little bit. You have to be careful with that. So a lot of processing over and over and over could cause it to drift. That's why you have to pay attention to the syncing every single time of that. So it's just making sure that the sync of the video and the sync of the audio, they're locked tight at the drum, and they're syncing with the same type of frame rate, et cetera, all that stuff.
Yeah. It's a learning curve. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, it is. And I have that problem too and everything, but you just go back to the source. The source should be locked up, and then realize what's being rendered down to what you're cutting, what you're rendering to, and everything like that. And then coming from the internet, you're using Zoom coming to the internet, that latency could have something to do with it too. So you might have to sometimes by hand lock up the video and the audio, and I've done that too. I've actually had to cut the audio to make sure it works out, but it works. Thank God we can edit the audio like that very quickly. But sometimes, the syncing, you get some syncing problems from the internet through Zoom or what have you, and it's not always locked in. But you can work with that.
The bass player in my last band, he lives in Prescott, Arizona. He was in LA. That's when we were all out there playing together. We were in LA, but he's closing down his studio. He's not really needing it anymore, and so he said, I can get pennies on the dollar for this equipment that I've got, or I can send it to you and let you put it to good use. So that's where I got this RE20 right here in front of me.
That's a great mic. I mean, you really put it to good. That's a classic mic. That mic is still that's electro voice. Yeah.
Only Rush Limbaugh's was gold plated. Mine's not gold plated yet.
Matter of fact, that microphone is what my students use in our studio at EPCC. We have those broadcast type of microphones. They learn on that. So. But even though they learn on that one, some of them use it, but now a lot of them are going to the blue snowball microphone and everything,
the Yeti and all those
Yetis and all that, because they do sound good too. So.
Yeah, and they're a lot less expensive. I mean,
they're plug and play. You just plug them into USB and they're off and running.
This one's a workhorse. I think brand new. It's around I don't know. It's several $100. $500-600. But you were talking about latency with this mic. You don't have the latency issues with it. I like it. I don't know. I think my SM58 had a little more warmness to it. But I don't know. I'm still learning it. I'm running this one flat right now. So does it sound pretty good?
That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. All the frequencies are there that feel comfortable. It's nothing standing out too much on the higher, lower end, or mid end. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
How does my voice sound? Because I'm kind of using a cheaper mic, for me, but it works. Can you hear me okay?
It sounds good. Oh, yeah. It really does.
Yeah, it's a plug and play mic, and it's preset. It just goes to show how technology has advanced. This microphone probably costs maybe under $20. And
wow.
Look how I sound.
Well, I got this camera that I'm using right now. It's off a brand new MacBook Pro M1 processor, and I got it from B&H out of New York, and I thought I'm gonna go for the best right now for this production, and I've always been a PC guy, but I made the transition to Apple. I thought I never do it. We all had iPhones and we have iPads, so I thought, well, I can do this.
Right.
You can teach this old dog new tricks. So I'm learning it, and it's so far so good. Even if I disable this mic and just use the internal mic on this computer, it sounds really good. It just sounds like I'm on a phone call with you.
Right.
You can tell that it's not studio quality. Whereas with this mic here, it's studio quality.
Oh yeah. It's always good to use the most classic, the most comfortable, the most warm type of style. You have a really good mic, and I'd stay with it. Because that mic's not going anywhere. A lot of people still use it. It's classic, and all the new mics more or less are trying to emulate the sound of that mic. So stay with that mic. It sounds good.
I think I will. Sounds good. Well, my friend, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned more about Billy Towns that I did not know, and you're a dear friend. I really appreciate you, what you're doing, man. I love that you've got a passion going for so many things and doing them all so well. And, you're my brother from a different mother, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Rick, it's obviously you've been an incredible friend, supporter, and everything you've been doing for the last few years. Thank you very much. And this podcast, what you're doing here is amazing. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. And my best to you on the success of this podcast and where you take it.
Thank you, Billy.
And everything, and I just want by the way, when does this podcast come out? So I can.
This one here, let me see what I've got scheduled here. I've got next Tuesday. They always come out on Tuesday morning at 7 a.m.
Okay.
And this one, let's see, I've got Richard Smith from Nashville coming out. Let's see. We're recording it tomorrow, so that one will be coming out on the 10th.
Okay.
And you'll be coming out on the 17th.
Okay.
August 17th, 7 o'clock. on all of the podcast channels, YouTube, Facebook, on my 2 Facebook channels. We'll have YouTube out there too. I'll do a video, but I'll also do an audio on this one also, and that way I can put it up on all of the platforms. Thank you, my friend, and we'll be in touch. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Definitely. Rick, thank you very much for having me on this podcast. Much success and luck for you on this. And again, you've been a great friend. Thanks for everything that you do for music, for creativity, for me, for everything in the city of El Paso. Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome, my friend. Take care, buddy. Love you, man.
Okay, we'll see you. Love you back. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.